Well, it's 6 o'clock. We'll call the work session to order. If Shad can lead us in the invocation.
It's all about our heads. Father, we thank you for another day that you've given us. We thank you for your love. We thank you for your mercy. We thank you for your grace. Lord, we thank you, God, for the privilege and opportunity to be able to come to you in prayer. Lord, we ask you, God, that you would forgive us for all of our sins before we would ever ask you anything. Lord, now I ask that you would be with each and every one that's here tonight. Lord, I pray, God, that you would know this agenda and the business that would be taken care of tonight. Lord, I pray that your will would be done in each and every one of these situations. Father, I pray for the wisdom and the knowledge to take care of each one of these situations. Lord, lead, guide, and direct us in all things we will do. Forgive us again for all of our many sins. For all these things we ask in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Everybody can join us in the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next on the agenda is considering the agenda for adoption. There are no changes. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Please vote. Carries 5-0. Thank you. Next is to adopt the following meeting minutes. A, regular council meeting of October 16th, 2018. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second, please vote. Carries 5-0. Next is item B, executive session meeting October 16th, 2018. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second, please vote. Carries 5-0. Thank you. Next, item 6, acknowledgements. There are none. Item 7, old business. A, planning and zoning, number 1, impact fees.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, before you tonight is the first time that you are seeing the impact fee ordinance, which has been prepared as a result of the impact fee study, which was conducted by Duncan Associates. If you skip the first couple of pages of the ordinance, you get to the part of it. What we'll be actually doing is adding chapter 114 to the code of the city of Cumming, Georgia. This is about a 35-page ordinance, single-page 10-point font, so it is dense, to say the least. Probably the most important thing for you to look at least in the short term, is to look at the table, which is in section 114-12. That's probably about 6 or 7 pages over, that lists out what the fees that Duncan Associates recommended for the city to adopt. Mr. Mayor, we need to have a hearing on this tonight. If anybody wishes to speak in favor of it or against it, we will then need to have a second hearing at the next time we consider this, before we can move forward and adopt the impact fee ordinance.
All right. Do I have a motion that we go into public hearing for impact fees?
So moved. Second.
Second, please vote. Carries 5-0. Is there anyone here that would like to speak in favor of impact fees? No. Is there anyone that would like to speak in opposition to impact fees? Nope. I have a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved. Second.
Please vote. Carries 5-0.
We don't need to take any action on it tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
Wait till the actual time we're going to consider the passage.
Go through the highlights of it, though, or what?
Absolutely.
When you pay, how you pay, who pays, what?
The impact fees will be paid at the stage that someone is going to obtain a development permit. That's the way we have everything prepared. The impact fees will be paid both on commercial as well as residential developments as we have it. The fees, again, are set out in the table that you can find in section 114-12. It does provide a way for people to get credits on the impact fees that they will be incurring to the extent that they are providing additional services for which our impact fees are going to be assessed. So, for example, we're going to be assessing impact fees on roads, parks, and public safety. If somebody were to, while while they are developing a neighborhood, they were to create a park in the neighborhood that ends up being something that the public has access to. There are ways to deal with that. One of the things that the city has identified in its capital improvement element that it would like to be able to use funds for is the development of the city bypass, for example. So if the developer were to come in and they were to do a whole bunch of the work towards that and building that bypass, then they could be able to get a credit off of their impact fees because they're paying for the things we have identified that we need through our studies in order to keep the level of service the same as it is, even though people move in. That's one of the important things to remember, is that impact fees are not designed for us to reduce traffic, for example. They're not designed for us to increase the amount of public safety protection we have. Impact fees are designed so that when new developments come in, the level of service that we have stays the same. That we're not impacting the current population of the city of Cumming negatively by approving new developments, that we're able to keep everything status quo, is the idea behind impact fees.
If you could buy an acre on income, and you wanted to build a house, what would the impact be on it?
If the impact, if it was going to be,
$4,589.
right,
Now, Kevin,
yes, sir.
I'm interested in, I don't know if you can work it in here or not. In a person, okay, I own a lot
Okay,
in the city of Cumming.
yes, sir.
I wanna build me a private home. I wanna build me a home.
Yes, sir.
I'm the owner, and I wanna build me a home.
Okay,
I don't want our people to have to pay that much money for them a private home. Not as a developer to sell it, so forth, but it's a home for them.
so obviously, whatever the council decides to do, you know, we can make it work as long as it's within the law. There are provisions where impact fees can be waived, and those are discussed in the ordinance, when you can waive an impact fee, what the conditions have to be. I will tell you, Councilman, as
They're in here.
they're in
Okay,
here, how you
okay,
go
I'll
about
read it.
waiving things, when you can waive them. But you have to remember that when you're talking about waiving things, one of the things you have to keep in mind is we have to treat everybody equally. You know, we can't, and I'm not saying that you would do it for some people and not for others. I hear what you're saying, but we also have, I don't know that we would be able to say legally that this lot does not, that this particular lot should not have to pay an impact fee, whereas others would. If you want to look at where they are while you're reviewing this over the next couple of weeks, it's section 114-13. There are certain exemptions, and that's what we talk about, exemptions and waivers in that particular section 114-13.
But that doesn't exempt.
Now, I'm not talking about pulling a lot out of a development.
Oh, I know.
I'm talking about, you owned the lot and you decided to build.
Where the thought process behind the impact fees and the way they study it, that house and that person driving that car and using park and rec and police services isn't any different than somebody that bought a house as part of a 100-lot development, though. You
Correct.
still got the same amount of strain on the infrastructure, that whether they had two acres of land and wanted to split it off and build one for their kid, that's
Right.
still one more house that's putting a strain on it as compared to, and because we don't do property taxes,
Right.
it helps to pay for the infrastructure that
Sure.
we're gonna need with the growth. That's kind of where
Yep.
kind of have to look at it.
What is this, a permit which does not result in any additional residents, visitors, building occupants, customers, or employees?
What section are you on?
That's cool.
Letter E.
So does that mean somebody in the city could build another house, say I'm moving there, but I guess you're creating something?
That could be like you build a detached garage.
Yeah, it's been along
Or
those
shed.
lines.
Nobody's gonna live in
Out
it.
there, though, an
I could
accessory
also,
structure.
I could also
Could
see,
be.
But it
I
says
didn't
no
read
additional residents, visitors, building
I could
occupants.
also see a situation where, to kind of go back to what Councilman Ledbetter was saying, let's say that he owned lot here and then a lot here, and they're side by side, and he decided he wanted to build a new house on this lot, and then he was gonna just level the old house. And that's a situation where that permit that was issued to him is not going to create any new additional residents.
But if you left his old house up, presumably somebody else would.
That's the issue. So if the old house is left up.
But I kinda
then
agree with you.
somebody's gonna do
Could you do it on a lot size basis? Like if somebody, like an acre or more or something, or even bigger, that
You pay less.
might pay less or exempt?
Maybe that would encourage people to have bigger lots. We don't want to end up like South Forsyth.
Well, I'm just
Yeah,
thinking about the people that own that own a lot and have decided to build. And they've owned that lot for many years and they have just decided to build. And
I just wanna know where those lots are.
I don't reckon he is none, are they?
I mean, that's,
There's a few, I've been,
I don't reckon he is any, but they might be one.
I don't know that you, I don't know that you would be able to restrict it so much based upon the size of, a single-family detached home is gonna have a certain amount of impact, no matter how big the dirt is that it's sitting on. So that's why you do it.
Well, it's already a subdivided lot, you're not filing a minor plat, but it's subdivided, right, and it's an existing lot over a certain size. I could see if you're just doing one structure. You see what I'm saying, see where I'm going with this?
I see what you're saying.
But-
Lewis is saying?
But you're saying if you're knocking down the previous,
No,
No.
just
Then-
an existing unsubdivided lot that you're not subdividing further, you're putting one structure on, it's existing, it's one structure, it's a certain size, it fits some criteria to possibly get a break to cover like what Lewis was talking about existing.
and no new residents into the city?
no,
Or
what
no
they're
new
saying, what they're
So
saying
then,
is
so then it's
opposite.
an increase on the, on our, on what
But
our,
what if you, just
needs.
what if you had 5
Right.
acres, or if you owned 5 acres and you had them subdivided out into 3 lots,
Mhm.
and you've had that for 10 years, you lived on one and you had 2 other lots that you were holding.
Mm-hmm.
And now all of a sudden, your daughter wants to build a house right there behind you. She's gotta pay $5,000 to
Mhm.
build that house.
right, yeah, it's just the same as somebody that's not owned that lot previous, building a house and moving in, right? It's creating additional stress on
But it's
the
just,
city.
what I'm saying, it's just one lot on a big lot, somebody that's owned the lot for a long
No,
time. They're
I
not subdividing.
understand.
But
The
it,
impact
it
is.
isn't about the size of the lot though, it's about the added stress on the infrastructure. I mean, it's still another person.
It's
I
not,
mean,
I'm
it's like
not shooting
that.
it down, I mean, it's worth considering, but that
It was
is
tough
still,
when the county raised, I know when the county raised their impact fees, my father-in-law had a trailer on a piece of property. And he was renting it, and he was gonna take it down and build him a house on this piece of property. But it was like 2.5, I know the size doesn't matter, but it was like 2.5 acres, he's owned it for 20 years. And then he was gonna have to pay that increased impact fee deal.
But seeing what this is saying, if you're taking the trailer off
That's true.
and putting the house on,
That's a
then that's
net-
no
net.
added impact.
That's a good point.
But if you're splitting it up and leaving the trailer and adding a new house, then you have impact.
There is the possibility, for what it's worth, that somebody could do it, what's called an individualized fee determination. And I'm not saying that would make sense for them to do it, because the cost may incur to go about doing that. But if somebody did not feel like they were going to have that big of an impact to the city, there is a process they can go through to try and get an individualized fee determination for their particular development, whether it's one house or 100 houses. So that's out there as well.
well, that's not good.
If, well, how do you mean that's not good? We have
What
to,
if you had 100 houses and you decided you wanted to lower the impact fees?
well, you have to do a study and show the impact fee administrator what the actual impact of each of those is.
But that would just be another company's opinion versus what we've already got.
Where is that? Where is that?
I got another space on
Section
my hat
114.
rack.
Now, understand, some of these things are required by state law to have, so it's, it's
As long
not
as we
that-
got an attorney, I don't
these
care.
are things that we're offering people,
Just like one thing that's different in ours, or correct me if I'm wrong, Kevin, because I've not read through every, but like with the county, with their impact fees, I built a detached garage, in the past. And what triggered impact fees was if it was heated and cooled. Well, it was a garage that I worked on old cars. If I put heat and air in it, I had to pay impact fees. Now, there was no other impact. It was the same number of people living in the house. Ours isn't calling for that. That would be exempt in ours.
That's an administrative decision in any of that.
Yeah, but in the county, if you put air conditioning in your shop, you had to pay it. If you didn't, you
That was
didn't.
when they were based on square footage though.
Yeah.
I don't think they're.
Would
Right.
it,
But that's the way it was at that time.
would it hit the impact fee if you did a detached garage, but you had an apartment upstairs
Yeah.
and you brought your parents to live in with you, then you'd hit the impact fee the same, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, this one, takes out unoccupied accessory building.
On 114.14.3, that's where you're talking about an individual to get their cost per unit lowered.
114-14 D3. That entire section of 114-14 talks about the steps you have to go through in order to have an individualized determination about impact fees. Yes, ma'am.
And we're not acting on it tonight. That was just the first of two public hearings, so we got 2
Yeah,
weeks
it's
to
gotta
read
be
it and
some
then
reading in this and stuff.
read it all up and then come back with a list of questions at the next council meeting. And then we can address them all then, or
So one thing that.
we can call Scott prior to that.
We want our administrator, impact fee administrator to
I thought you were volunteering.
Yeah,
He'd have to recuse all the time.
he'll have to recuse. Yeah. You might as well say, hey, I'll do it, because you'll get to recuse.
What do you need on that?
Nothing, we're not doing
No
anything.
vote or nothing?
No, no, that was just the first step in the process, so the next council meeting, we'll bring it up again, another public hearing, and then at that point, we'll be able to pass it at that point, Kevin?
You
Oh,
can,
we're-
and this kind of ties into the very next topic on the agenda. You can do it then, or we actually have made it so that you can, if there are big changes that we need to make, we'll have to.
Gotcha. So, moving on, number 2, building and development moratorium.
This is another extension, Mr. Mayor, of the Building and Development Moratorium. We will need to have a hearing on this, and then as well as a hearing or vote. This moratorium will extend the current moratorium that is in place until December 18, 2018. That is your regular meeting that will be held upstairs in December. The only reason we extended it that long was in case you do have big changes to the ordinance. We don't want to be forced into a situation where I make you all sit here until midnight at the next meeting while I make changes to it. So that way we have a little time to work on it.
Where did we get the moratorium? Where did we get this document? Who kind of proposed it?
That's Duncan and Associates is the firm that we contracted with to do the impact fee study.
Now, the ordinance was written by us, but there are a lot, Councilwoman Ledbetter, just so you're aware, a lot of the things that are in that ordinance are state law requirements that we have to have in there. The ordinance, I don't want you to think it was necessarily written out of whole cloth by us. It's based upon other ordinances that Duncan and Associates had prepared previously.
Okay, thank you.
But even, Mr. Mayor, getting back to the moratorium, if we have a public hearing on this, we're set to extend the moratorium until December 18. It will expire though as soon as you approve the impact fee ordinance.
Gotcha. So we just need a public hearing
And then a vote, yes.
Yeah. and then a vote to extend it.
And then a vote
Yep,
to adopt
okay.
the resolution, yes,
Yeah.
sir.
I have a motion to go into public hearing.
Motion.
I don't remember.
Second.
I need your keys.
Motion carries 4-0, Christopher Light recusing. Do we have anybody that would like to speak in favor of the building and development moratorium? Have anybody that would like to speak in opposition to the building and development moratorium? I have a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close.
Second, please vote. Passes 4-0 with Christopher Light recusing. So have a motion to extend the building and development moratorium.
Motion to extend the moratorium.
Second, please vote. Carries 4-0. Christopher recusing. Next is item 3, Pawnshop Ordinance.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, this is an ordinance, the sole purpose of which is this is the last piece really to facilitate our intergovernmental agreement with Forsyth County when it comes to the transmission of information between the city of Cumming and Forsyth County Dispatch. What this does is this calls for electronic reporting to the sheriff's office. Actually, it calls for electronic reporting to the city of Cumming Police Department or its designee, which is the Forsyth County Sheriff's Office, to receive the information for pawn transactions, including fingerprints, pictures of the items pawned, pictures of the persons pawning the item. It's a crime prevention measure is what it boils down to. And that's essentially it. We'll be adopting the same system the county has in place with a seamless network between us and the county when it comes to pawn. Chief Tatum has had a copy of this ordinance provided to the pawn shops around town, and before that, was even telling them, before we even had the ordinance done, we letting folks know this was coming. The one thing we did in this was we allowed them to have, because there's some software they have to buy, the effective date is immediately, but they don't have to have the reports presented and filed electronically until January 1, 2019. So we're not telling everybody tomorrow they have to have this installed. They got a little time after you pass it, if you should pass it. No need for a hearing on this one.
Any questions or discussion?
We can adopt it.
You can adopt it tonight.
I like it.
Do I have a motion to adopt?
Make a motion to adopt.
Second by Linda, please vote. Carries 5-0. Thank you. Next, number 4, amendments to vape shop ordinance.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, this is an amendment to your current vape shop ordinance. The thing that this does is it brings this more in line with what we did earlier in the year with regard to massage parlors. It allows you to deny a vape shop license if an applicant has, upon your investigation or information learned in the city
Go away with them.
or through other jurisdictions, has engaged employees or has him or herself sold these types of tobacco products in violation of state law or municipal law or municipal ordinances. It also provides that a location itself, this is something we did with massage parlors, a location itself, once it has had its license or business registration revoked, that location cannot be used for the same purpose for a period of 36 months to, in essence, allow the history of that particular location to be cleared out. The idea behind that is if you had a vape shop where minors were going to get alternative nicotine products and they were getting them at that particular vape shop, you wouldn't necessarily want to allow another vape shop, even if it is owned by somebody else, to come in right behind them, and then you have minors going right back in there trying to get the same thing again. So that's the thing this does. That's what H&I do. One is it focuses on the applicant and the applicant's prior history of the people he or she employs, and the second one focuses on the particular location.
That thing needs to be pretty tough because they're gonna do anything to sell it. Because they make so much money on it. That needs to be tough because they are going to sell it. If they've got a vape shop, they're gonna sell it.
I think we've made it about as tough as we can make it under the law, right, Kevin?
I would agree with that. I mean, these are the last two things that I can think of that we would want to do to make sure that we've got a good handle on it.
You agree with that, don't you? That they are gonna sell it if there's any way possible to sell it. I'm not saying everybody's a crook.
I just hope that if they sell it legally, and that's all we're trying to make sure they do, is that, especially as it's sold to kids. And that's the big thing.
Is it okay to say to the owner of the business that if the vape shop is closed because of selling, whatever, that for 36 months he can't sell it, he can't rent it
To another vape shop.
Right, that's what it's saying. You can't, another,
That is, okay.
These are all, anybody who wanted to get a vape shop at this point in the city of Cumming anyway would have to apply for a conditional use permit to begin with. So if there wasn't a vape shop there and somebody wanted to get a vape shop there, they first have to go through and get a conditional use permit in order to do it, so there's no right at this point to have a bake shop in this particular district. So
And that has to come before the council for
So
approval.
even if the person that owned the building and the next person with the bake shop,
They can't do it in that
they
same
couldn't
spot.
probably got
they
it
can have
anyway.
any kind of business under the sun they want to have there, but not for 36 months could it be a bake shop.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And that's why you're okay, because there are so many things you can do. We're not telling anybody you have to board up your doors and windows for 36 months, just that you can't have that use and that location again
Okay.
for 36 months.
Any other questions or discussion? I have a motion to adopt.
I make a motion to adopt.
Second.
Second.
Second by Jason, please vote. Carries 5-0. Next is new business administration, Corps engineers, Tim Rainey. We got you in as quick as we could.
That's
We had to get rid of the old stuff
Sit here,
first.
stand up, what do you want to do?
If you wanna go up there, be good, and everybody can look at your beautiful bald head.
Reflection. So I'm here today to give you some information about our master plan update process. And in doing so, I don't really want anything from you, other than to communicate this information, so hopefully maybe you can make an informed decision somewhere down the road. And we'll start off, so you have Mary Alice Park leasing the Corps of Engineers. I'm gonna really just focus on that. You can do absolutely nothing, and it just rides out. And we can go through our master plan process, you'll still have Mary Alice Park leased. What we're gonna do in this process, though, it's a very comprehensive review. It's the first time we've updated the master plan in 30 years. We probably won't update it again for 30 years or more. So I wanna try to get as much done now as possible and provide you the information that there's potentially an opportunity maybe to save some money. You can, with Mary Alice Park, you can at any time submit to the Corps of Engineers a plan, a site plan development to do whatever at Mary Alice. You can do it today, you can do it 15 years from now, you can do it 20 years from now. If we do it that way, you submit that plan, we're gonna ask you for, actually, the policy now says $12,500. It's probably been talked about $17,000 just to review it. You're gonna have to go out to get a consultant to write an EA, an environmental assessment for the changes you wanna make. So that cost plus the $17,000 or whatever it is down the road, that would come out of the city of Cumming. Part of our master plan process, if you so choose, if you look down the road 20 years, 30 years, whatever, and think you're gonna do something different with Mary Alice Park, my opinion would be to go ahead, be thinking about that now, and try to get some sort of site development plan to us, because as we do this master plan update process, we're gonna do an environmental assessment, do that National Environmental Policy Act stuff for the whole master plan update process. So if you have a site submittal from Mary Alice submitted to us, we can do that, and you won't have to pay those costs. That's the information I want to give you. It's entirely up to you if you want to submit a plan, even if you submit a plan now. And when I say now, let me give you the timeline. We did hit a delay in our master plan update process. We wanted to do exit surveys on the lake, and we have to get approval from Washington, and that didn't come until it was too late. So we basically got set back a year. We were gonna do those exit survey questions during last recreation season, which was the summer. So we're gonna do them next recreation season. After we do those surveys, we'll collect that information with information we've already collected. Our contractor will give us it's called a recreation carrying capacity study. They'll give us a report that has all this information in it. The Corps of Engineers will develop some recommendations, management proposals, all over the lake, including Mary Alice. When we get those developed, we'll invite the stakeholders back, including the city. Scott was there, I don't know who else, to tweak those recommendations. After we get those recommendations refined, we'll have another series of public meetings to get the public's feedback on them. After we consider all that comment, we'll actually have a master plan update ready to go, and our environmental assessment will be started probably in the fall to winter, probably winter of 2019, 2020, and the EA complete sometime probably in the summer of 2020. So for planning purposes, I'll just throw out, you probably have to fall or winter to consider if you want to try to submit some kind of development plan for Mary Alice. It doesn't actually have to be what you think it might be, or what might be used, Mary Alice might be used for in 2020 or 2030 or 2040. You can submit a site plan now. My point here is if we can get some part of the environmental assessment done for you that we're going to be doing, then that's that much less you're going to have to do whenever you do something else. So let's say now you just want to put another parking lot in, or put a shelter, or put some more picnic sites, which means cutting trees down and putting asphalt down in the undeveloped sections of the park. We'll cover that through this master plan update process. And then 20 years from now, or 15 years from now, or 10 years from now, you want to do something different. You want to rip all that out and put something else. Portions of that environmental assessment will be done, and you won't have to pay for that. I'll use an example for Lanier Islands, actually, the old Pine Isle Hotel, the original one that was torn down. If you go out there and look, the footprint and foundation of that hotel is still there. And they've done that on purpose, because if they changed that or removed it, they'd have to do all the environmental documentation over again. So they purposely left that footprint there, and they can put a hotel right back up on it without doing any of that environmental documentation. Again, I'm happy to answer your questions. I don't know if I confused you. Again, my point is to try to give you information, let you know about these, what I'm going to call site development plans now for Mary Alice. We're going to push it through as still a high-intensity recreation area. And again, if you don't do anything, it's going to come out that way, hopefully. We still have to look at the recreation carrying capacity study.
That's what I was going to ask him. So in other words, could the recreation carrying capacity study change that designation from high intensity to something else?
What does high intensity mean?
High-intensity recreation, high development, asphalt parking lots, bathrooms, shelters, campgrounds. Moderate intensity is trails with picnic tables, because usually our picnic table standards have a concrete slab and some kind of table on it. Low intensity is just walking trails through the woods, bank fishing type things. So it's a kind of a level. There's lower impact with less intensity, moderate impact with moderate intensity, and high impact with high intensity. That's going to be your big developments, your campground type, your day use areas, just like Mary Alice is now. I don't envision Mary Alice changing from high intensity to anything else, but I can't guarantee anything.
Right.
All this is going to be based on the recreation carrying capacity study. But even that being said, we want to still provide a diversity of experiences at Lake Lanier. There's people out there that love the crowded places. There's people out there that love the less crowded places. If the Baldridge Creek area, Habersham, Baldridge Marina, Mary Alice, if that section ends up being one of those high intensity areas, it might be decided, okay, well, it's already high intense, let's keep it high intense, and that's where we'll put more development. That way we can keep something else from a moderate or low intense over here. And those people that like to go to the crowded places, they can have it and go to the crowded places. Those that like to come to the lower or moderate use, we don't have to put anything over here. So just because something in the carrying capacity comes back and says it's saturated, that's a good indicator that we should not put any more development there, but it's not necessarily a nail in the coffin. Because it may be that's where we're going to put that crowded area that some people actually like to go to. Sunset Cove, some other areas. All that's yet to be determined. And, that's all I can say at this point. We've made no conclusions. That's why we're inviting the stakeholders and everybody to come to these meetings. That's why we're inviting the public to come to these meetings.
So if they're doing the EA in next fall, how long do you think it would take plans to get approval? It goes to Mobile, right?
If the plans are put in for the master plan process, that's the approval process. If it gets in the master plan update recommendation that we do the EA for, it's already done.
That's what saves us the time and the money.
That saves time and money right there.
Right.
Yeah.
As opposed to having to go to Mobile.
You say this
But in our conversations, when we met, you know, they kind of frown on hotels or restaurants and,
Well, that's what I was gonna ask. Can you talk a little bit about what kind of
Again,
infrastructure, I mean, just basic principles of what you guys?
well, our policy right now says water-based recreation, or water or natural resource-based recreation. So take, Charleston, they put a bike trail, mountain bikes. Mountain bikes are resource-based, because it goes with the land. But then Hall County wanted to put a BMX track up at Laurel. Well, that's not natural resource-based, because you actually construct berms and hills and ramps that they're jumping over. So we're looking more water and resource based. Now, there's an exception in that policy for resorts. We talked a minute about Great Wolf.
Yeah.
So if you come in-
Could we have put it there?
I believe so. If you come in with a proposal for a resort type development, then that water-based and resource-based kind of gets set aside. That's why Lanier Islands is there. It's
Right.
based on a it's a
Resort.
resort facility. So, golf is not a water-based or resource-based
Right.
activity, but it's there.
right.
The tennis and the swimming.
So I had a meeting, last week with somebody that was looking to do basically it'd be the largest in Georgia tennis complex.
In Roswell.
Those same folks, and they were interested in Mary Alice Park, and,
Yeah. Unless you can fit a resort in there with it.
right, well, they'd love to put a hotel and,
It's not gonna hold 130 tennis courts.
right. But they wanted to put, a hotel and restaurants and that kind of stuff with it.
But wouldn't boat up restaurants along the shore, like a
So
boardwalk?
that's another thing that has been brought up in the initial stakeholder meetings, and we put it out for public comment, and that's part of our initial gathering. Commercial businesses and restaurants, primarily though, I think on the north end, I'd have to go back and look at my notes. Since we got delayed, I've kind of not looked at it, but I want to get back in it, because now's the time, because we have time, and to believe, I was saying to some of the staff today, it's like this delay is actually a blessing in disguise, because we can start letting some people know ahead of time, and again, if you choose to do something, great, but you have a little bit of time to do it.
Right.
But
If
the
you choose
Corps
not
of
to do
Engineers is
anything.
not against something like if we could have gotten Great Wolf, if we could have gotten something that has hotels.
So I'm gonna say,
Whatever.
the Corps is not gonna necessarily say we're for or against anything. We're gonna look at existing policy and regulation and look at it that way. So right now, just what I was saying, our current policy for typical park usage, it's water and natural resource-based recreation. If it's gonna be a resort development, I think we're ready to go with Great Wolf, and then,
It never got
Things happen.
approved. It never got that far, but
Yeah.
it was
Well,
going down that road, right?
but I
Yeah.
think the folks walked away or whatever happened. I
Right.
think if it would've kept going, I couldn't say one way or the other,
Right.
but there was nothing, the Corps wasn't there saying, no, we're not gonna do this, we're not gonna do this, we're not gonna do this.
Right.
And again, those things go through public
Cherokee
input
and get
process.
So it's basically keep it more,
The casino down.
you either gotta go resort or keep it with,
Just
recreation
regular
based.
recreation park type stuff. Now, we don't, a lot of people come, or jurisdictions come to Corps facilities and want the big softball complexes or soccer complexes. Those we frown on, because they're not water and natural resource based. We look to those jurisdictions. If you wanna provide those facilities, do that on your land.
right.
We'll provide you picnicking, camping, day use. We've even allowed frisbee golf, or whatever that is. Yeah, frisbee
Yeah.
golf. I can't,
But if it were the tennis/resort,
tennis/resort, it kind of opens up a new world.
then but it's gotta have those other aspects, the hotels and restaurants and to where it's a destination kind of thing. That's what makes it different,
Right.
right?
So what I was saying, if, I realize a year's not, or from now till winter is not time enough to get that kind of plan in place.
Right.
But if you could get something, if I can come out to just where I can point,
Yeah,
if you can get something showing some development over in here, that we can get some of the environmental documentation done now that we're gonna pay for, because we're doing it anyway.
right.
I think it would benefit you.
But you think that would go through, if we were to have something now, the chance maybe of approval would be expedited.
Oh, yeah.
If it
Well,
was,
It'll fall
waited
in with
to
the
wait.
entire
Right.
master plan update process. So when we come out of this, next summer, when that EA is done, we're gonna have a new master plan document.
Right.
And to me, it's almost like well, just, I don't know, your comprehensive land use plan.
Yep.
Do you have, I mean, the parameters for what you guys are, the policies and stuff, that's accessible?
I can forward it to Scott.
Would we have to build, or would you let us build a larger
A larger,
road?
potentially, yeah, or a bigger parking lot.
Well, I mean, road into it, because you know it's a.
Well, if it's on our property, we can look at it, sure.
Yeah. We can do whatever we want outside of theirs.
Yeah,
Inside
but
of
look at
theirs.
that, That's pretty narrow. You'd almost have to agree to let us do it.
Well, yeah, I mean, if there's gonna be some fill placed, there's ways. I mean, DOT puts the bridges across, and we have all kinds of things to address that. Yeah, you may have to mitigate for
Tell
it,
them we're building it.
but there's ways to do it.
Okay,
Right.
thank you.
That's why I say we're not necessarily for or against. We try to implement existing laws, regulations, and policies. And if this doesn't work, well, we can mitigate for it. And as long as you can provide the mitigation and everything works,
Give him a
we'll
house.
move forward.
And that's where we would like to do something there. It's just a matter of, well, what can we do, you know, and before you go down that road of spending $50,000, $100,000 getting plans done and say,
Right.
well, no, that's not, if we had an idea,
I'm
then that,
happy to work with
yeah.
council or Scott or whomever to kind of guide you through that path. I will say, we've had a long-standing employee, Darrell Stone, who did this, and he was great at it. He was a landscape architect, and he worked with marinas and local jurisdictions, and he retired. So we've lost a huge amount of skill and knowledge in that area. You know, take me 6 months to hire somebody back, probably won't be there that standard or capability. I can help as much as I can, but, you know, I get it. Because I want to guide you through that process as
Right.
well, because if you just turn something in without us looking at it, it's like,
What were
this is
y'all
what I
thinking?
asked, you
Yeah.
know? So
Exactly.
we can sit down and help you do that.
Yeah. Well, if you don't mind, I'm gonna have Scott bend your ear. I know you don't have anything to do normally, so, and, cause we're very interested in trying to
We'll just make so much sense.
do something with it, but we wanna make sure that it's not exercising futility, you know?
It just makes so much sense to utilize this time since they're going through this.
Exactly.
That's what I'm trying to get
Yep.
at. And I'm trying to
And
get that out to not just Cumming, Forsyth, Hall, Gainesville, everybody that's got leased areas. And then, and the other jurisdictions, you just have the one, you don't have a lot, we don't have a lot of common boundary, but I'm talking to the others, we've got a lot of, areas that are landlocked between, or behind private property. It's like, well, there's not a whole lot we can do there. We've got some, well, actually Forsyth has up, jot them down, I think they're gonna build a school up there. That'd be ideal if the school wanted to lease one section of it and make like an outdoor classroom.
Right,
You know, there's lots of things, so I'm engaged with everybody,
right.
but, you know, I'm not leaving out Cumming.
And then, I don't know if you know the answer to this or not, and it's been a while since I read the previous, some of that Great Wolf documentation, all that was before my time, but let's say we were to, you know, we have the lease, if we were to sublease it to like a Great Wolf, and they're paying the city of Cumming, does that change anything?
I don't know. The reason I say that is because the Lanier Islands lease is probably the only lease like it in the Corps, and it was approved at our headquarters.
Right,
I have heard there is a development proposed over at Hartwell that's gonna be somewhat similar, but I don't know the details there. If you propose that, that's all I can do is take it forward
right.
and see what happens.
Because, I mean, us as a city, you know, we don't want to go be building hotels and, you know, that's just not our, it would be private
right,
industry, but
right.
we'd have to sublease it to them. But then if, you know, if we're bringing in revenue from that for us to maintain the ground, that's the way I think I read it. And then maybe if the revenue's past our expenses, then that money goes to the Corps. Is that right, Kevin? Does that ring a bell?
There were a lot of conditions, exactly like what you're talking about. I'm like you, I've not looked at that in a long time, but what it boils down to is at the end of the day, the lease itself between the city of Cumming and at that time Great Wolf could not be a moneymaker for us. We couldn't essentially turn it into a a landlord earning a profit.
Right, but you could, if we had to spend 50,000 a year to
Yes.
Recoup.
to
your
work all
costs.
that, to recoup our costs, then after that, then any other additional revenue would go to the Corps.
Yep, because we spent.
That's the way I thought I'd read it, but it's been a long time,
Or
so.
even recoup your costs and reinvest in the property.
That's,
Right,
that,
yeah.
yes, yes. Has to be
Yeah.
put back in there or recapture of money we had put into the core property, we can get that back out.
Right, and that's the way I thought it was, but I wanted to run that by Tim, and we're gonna have, like I say, when you don't have something to do, we'll have Scott kinda getting
So
up.
again, yeah, pass your questions to him, call me, whatever, over time. That's all I got. I think.
And that's the worst case, you get something approved and you may not build it for 10 or 20 years.
Correct. That's why I was saying even if you get some, things can change. If you turn something in now, if you put a big parking lot in or a road around the loop or something and put in cabins, I'm not suggesting anything.
Right,
That's fine. At least we'll get the environmental done
Right.
for that area.
and so then
It
if
can
you were
change
to,
later.
right, and so then if you're not disturbing any additional area, let's say you did that and then you did something else, but you were in the same footprint, then you're okay.
Right. So I even looked for because I've seen them, I had them, I don't know where they went. I looked for the whole Great Wolf plans.
Yeah, I've never seen that. one
Thinking
either.
like, wow, we should just turn this in. This isn't what's gonna happen. But at
Right,
least it'll get some environmental documentation done.
right.
I just couldn't find anything, so here I am.
Would we have that, Scott? Would you have that?
We may have.
I think the cheapest option to get something done unless we want to.
Yeah.
We should at least.
We'll definitely be in touch with something, as soon as we can to get that ball rolling.
So again,
should at least-
fall to winter
Yep,
is what I'd say is your timeline to
Right.
get something done or.
and we sure do appreciate you coming out. You got any questions for us or anything we can do for you?
I'm gonna sit back down and go. If I may be excused.
You can be excused. Not gonna hurt our feelings.
Covers most of
Thank,
it.
thank you, Tim.
Dramatically different idea, it might be worth it. Get us the basic plan.
All right, so next item on the agenda, number 2, 2019 budget.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor and members of council. You have in your packet a proposal of the 2019 proposed budget that staff has been working on. It also includes the 2017 and 2018 adopted budget, so you'll have that to compare to. This is for review now for you. We'll have a hearing. The budget hearing will be at the next regularly scheduled council meeting. If you have any questions or need some explanation of anything, I'll be glad to meet with you individually or as a group, however you want to do that. And we can also have Jeff and his staff set in on that. If you have any questions tonight, I'll be glad to answer them.
So everybody can look it over and come back with questions if you want at the next meeting.
Is there anything,
Everybody.
you wanted to point out about it?
No, it's basically we're following the footprint we've laid all these years and, nothing really to jump out at us on this, just like for y'all to take a look at it, have some time to go through it a little bit, and if you have any questions, I'll be glad to address any of them.
Any other questions? We'll move on to the next one. Number 3, report quotes for the new heating and air system for City Hall.
Sir, Mr. Mayor, the purpose of this item is to report on quotes that I solicited for potentially replacing the existing HVAC system here at City Hall. The current system was installed in 2002 and has shown signs in recent years of pending failure. We've spent a significant amount of money the last few years keeping this system up and running, and each time we're told by contractors that it is needed replacing. They're all saying that you better hold your breath next summer or next spring when you cut the air back on. So we did get through this year. We did have to spend some money on it, but our maintenance staff has reviewed the situation too and agrees with their assessment. So there's 2 reasons that I'm requesting that we do this now. One being the fact that we have the money in the 2018 capital improvement budget, so this won't affect the 2019 budget in any way. The other reason is that a project like this takes quite a bit of time. Once these units are ordered, and for this building, it'll take two 55-ton units to service this building. Once the units are ordered, it takes about 7 to 8 weeks for delivery. My fear is that if we push this off too long and the unit quits during summer, we could be looking at 2 months without heat or air in the building. So I went out and got 6 quotes for you to review tonight. These quotes they're apples to apples quotes, all on the same system, which is a train 55-ton unit times 2. The quotes are from G Heating and Air for $249,995. Eddie's Refrigeration, $239,000. Powers Heating and Air, $253,455. Galgon HVAC and Mechanical, $219,867. Diversified Construction, $216,900. And Lawson Air and Plumbing was $211,750. After reviewing all the quotes with our maintenance staff, it's my recommendation that we consider to accept the low quote from Lawson Air and Plumbing from Gainesville, Georgia, in the amount of $211,750 for completion of this project. And again, this project will be funded by the 2018 capital improvement budget. And I'll be glad to answer any questions you might have at this time.
Phil, in that quote from Lawson's,
Yep.
they got specifically, they quoted that if the roof gets messed up, it's not in there for them to fix it.
It includes a 5-year warranty on any of the area that they work on, the molding, the roof. There's a term for it. It's the curb adapter. It's got a 5-year no leak warranty.
If anybody's been up there, they'd see that if there's anything wrong with the roof, it needs to be fixed before their new air conditioners are put in. And that'd be the only thing that I see that might be.
Yeah, what they're saying is if there's a hole 20 feet from where they're not working, they're not covering that
Right.
hole that's
Right.
there now. And you couldn't expect them to.
No,
No,
no.
but if it's somewhere,
Right, it's a 5-year warranty from them, right?
Right.
On the way those curbs work, the roof comes up, and you've got the curb up there and the unit sits on top. So that's, and I know firsthand how those can leak, so.
They're out of Gainesville, Georgia, Lawson Air and Plumbing.
do we know anything about them?
They have done some work. They've done a lot of work actually for the city of Gainesville. They listed them as one of their references. I've heard of Lawson. I've heard their commercials on the radio. I don't know personally anyone from that company, but
And it's train equipment?
it's train equipment.
Well, that's supposed to be one of the best, isn't it?
Yeah, currently we have Carrier.
Carrier.
Well, they quoted, I think they looked at both. The quote that we got though, that's not right on this. It's a train unit. I've got an email from them confirming all of that. We have a Carrier unit right now. And
It says the remove and dispose of the
Yeah, that's where that's
existing
at.
Carrier units.
Yeah,
We have Carrier, it's saying they're getting rid of the Carrier units.
Where does it say train?
It's in the bid documents. That's
Yeah,
just saying they're getting rid
I
of
only
the
put the
existing.
summary on here. I didn't put the entire bid packet, but it is a train, 2 55-ton units with dehumidification. So,
That's a 2-day process, I think.
this, the only thing with Carrier is, we can get a lot more people around here to work on a train than we can a Carrier. Carrier, you basically have to deal with a Carrier dealer. And they're a 20-week delivery on a Carrier unit.
Well, I think it's smart to get it now,
Well, we've got the money in that capital improvements budget.
and you don't
So-
have to be without.
We need to
No.
act on it tonight or
Yeah.
wait and act at the council meeting?
No, we need to act tonight so that
Yeah,
they can get it
I'm
going,
buying
so we can get it done by the end of the year. unless there's a,
Well, I make a motion, we, buy from Lawson at Gainesville.
have a second,
Second.
please vote. Carries 5-0, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next is number 4, Canton Road Beautification. In looking at, we're in the process now of getting a little bit of right-of-way and easements and whatnot to do sidewalks from Dairy Queen out to the old Mr. Swiss location, both sides of the road. And that'll have some landscaping and that kind of stuff. And then when you look going out 20 west, we have some areas out there where we could spend a little bit of money with trees and some groupings of shrubs that would really help the looks going out through there. So what I'd like to do is for us to look into getting a quote together to what it would take. There's some areas you can't do anything, it's all asphalt, but there's areas where it's grass that we could beautify it a little bit and not spend a lot of money.
Is there
So
any interest from community and helping with that?
we hadn't went to that point yet we're not talking about spending money tonight, we're just talking about,
I'm just wondering if
People might
that's the
donate.
direction we start kind of calling it a campaign, just kind of knocking on doors and saying, hey, this is what we're thinking, but do we need a plan together to show them kind of what we're thinking? Yes, that's.
we need somebody to nominate Christopher to knock on doors.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got a second.
I've done enough of that. I'm just glad to
You
still be
opened the
alive.
mouth, so there you
No
go.
recusing on that one.
Yeah, there's no recusing. Your office isn't in that area we're talking about.
Nominate Lewis. He's on
You're not moving your office, are you, Emery, on out 20 West or anything down there?
Henry's got some good property down there. We can put some.
His has got trees on it. It already looks good. So I just wanted to bring it up and see if there was a consensus to go forward with kind of not spending money at this point, but meeting with a landscaper and kind of saying, well, here's what we could do, and getting some quotes as to,
That didn't hurt him.
my gut feeling, I think, we're only talking $5,000 maybe, something like that, to do, as I've rode down through there, to plant some trees and some shrubs. And honestly, it'll be easier if we can put it on property owner's property, then if we don't, if we're putting it in the right of way, then we gotta deal with DOT to get approval to put, and the caliper of the tree changes and all that kind of stuff, so
It looked good, though.
I think it would,
And I guess they do, just make sure they take into account, safety. Trees in the right of way.
right, that's the thing, I think that, you can't put a tree that's gonna get over 4 inches in diameter in the right of way if it's in the state right of way. So then that kind of limits you to a crepe myrtle or kind of some other, issues like that. So,
That explains why we have so many crepe myrtles.
well, all those are in the city, that's a whole different animal, but,
You got against Craig.
I don't know. Well, I can tell you.
we don't, do we even need to vote on that to go get I didn't think so, so. Just wanted to bring that up, if that was a consensus, then we would, move forward and looking at what it might cost. Then we can make a decision from there. So next is number 5, proposed traffic sign, East Main Street. We're talking about that, now I'm with you.
Yeah.
The traffic sign part threw me off. We had another accident on the square where a pedestrian got hit in a crosswalk. That's 4 that I know of.
Somebody turned it
No, this was actually, and what I'm gonna talk about tonight would have had no bearing on this. The person that got hit the last time was crossing from the gazebo going to the new courthouse. the person that hit him was coming from Dairy Queen and turning left going towards Veterans Memorial. So, I mean, they had sight distance from here to that wall at a minimum to see the person. You know, long story short, you know, as Forrest Gump says, stupid is as stupid does, you know.
Driving.
But several, it was a lawyer, so it wasn't all that bad. I'm just kidding.
Well, that's kind of it.
That was just a joke. Calm down. It's getting late. Anyway, one thing that we were looking at, and the only part of anywhere around the square that we control like this is that area between the courthouse and the county administration building. That crosswalk is DOT's. So one thought is if we moved the stop bar where you're supposed to stop, that's the key word, supposed to stop. If we move that back 15 feet, where you're further back, so you have more sight distance to see a pedestrian walking. And then if you eliminated a right-hand turn on red, so you could not turn north on Highway 9 at a red light, then if people followed the law and the signs, that would protect pedestrians. Now, there's no guarantee. And we still don't have an answer yet. The engineer's looking at it to make sure with the state that we could move the stop bar back. Now, we can put the no right turn on red, but if we can move the stop, he thinks we can. But I just wanted to come to the council with that and get your thoughts on it. And then if y'all wanted to proceed that way, if it works with the state.
Well, I say the no right on red, and I use that every day. But
I know,
say,
I do too, but.
I use it all the time, but I agree.
Could you do, I've never seen one, but could you do it at just like business hours?
I don't know, that'd be an engineer question.
You probably can. But the other is just stupidity.
Yeah, most of these, I mean, I've almost been hit in that intersection, somebody trying to turn right, and I would have been hit had the person not been hit 2 days earlier at Kelly Mill, you know, and that person, there was 75, 80 feet. I don't know, you know, they're not paying attention. But that was fresh on my mind, and as I started to walk from admin building back to City Hall, I'm watching the lady looking left at the traffic, and I'm like, I'm not gonna move because she's not watching.
Yeah.
And sure enough, had I walked into that intersection, she'd have turned and hit me.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know,
I agree with the no right on, you know, no
it's
right
not
on
gonna
red,
be
but
great
once
for
you-
traffic. It's gonna slow traffic down through there because people can come up there and turn right on red, but, you know,
If you don't go all the way up and look,
right, and that's the thing. It's just, but here again, we can put all the signs, I think the only thing that'll solve it is to put railroad crossing things that just stop the street so people can walk through, but I don't think state's gonna go for that. But that's the only part of the whole issue that I think that we could,
but if you're talking about moving the stop sign back on the left,
no, it'd be all the way across, it would move it back. Like right now, the stop bar and the crosswalk are from me to you,
yeah.
you know,
Would that help if the whole road?
everybody would have to stop 15 feet, the length of this table farther back from the crosswalk. So surely to goodness you would see, well, there's somebody crossing the road, I don't need to, you know. And you're not gonna be at that point where you can't look left to see, well, can I turn right on red?
No,
You're not up far enough.
Let pedestrians know somebody's crossing there, here they come.
I think we need to wait till we get the engineering.
Well, that's what, this is all still,
Yeah.
they're not doing a report, they're just checking to see if we can.
Yes, what I'm saying.
If we
Get the
can with,
report on it before we act on it.
or we could still act subject to. I mean,
Well, I'm all for the no right on red, that will involve me, and I'm for that, because I think that is dangerous. But the other one, good grief.
oh, I know, and there's
How can you
nothing,
not see something?
there's nothing that us as the city could do to stop that part from happening, because it's a state
Well, that was a
intersection.
left-hand turn anyway, see?
Right. But,
I just don't see how you would not see somebody unless you're
Texting.
texting,
Yeah.
or just not paying any attention.
right. And here again, in the past week, I was in between the courthouse and the annex court, or the old courthouse, and the car in front of me stopped straddling the crosswalk and then got caught by the red light. Pedestrians are trying to walk across, and they're looking at the guy like, what are you doing, you know, and it's, no sign or anything else is gonna stop that. I mean, you know,
Well, you know why that is, because if you don't hurry and get across, when you get in the turn lane.
So that when you walk up over the car, just.
I know.
hey,
Johnny P.
I had enough space between me and him. They walked between us, and, you know, but it just,
Across the hood as you go by.
They need those light up crosswalks.
well, and that's the other thing that Councilman Levent called me about that. That would take, I believe, if memory serves, when we looked at that on Pilgrim Mill, it's about 75,000 per signalized crossing. Well, on the square, you would have 3 instances of that per corner. You'd have 12 times 75,000. Now, the county is interested in looking into that and saying they would help fund that, but to me, that would take the state getting involved in that one before we spend $1 million on. Well, it's their employees that keep getting, you know, the people are going to their buildings that are getting hit,
Yeah.
you know. So, well, we have any more discussion on moving the stop bar and adding a note right on red, subject to the engineer saying that's a feasible thing and we can do it? Obviously, we would not do it if he comes back and says, no, you can't.
I mean, you'll need to approve the expenditure of the funds anyway, because they're not budgeted, so, I mean, I think right now.
We won't know if they are until we get them.
Right, so we'll maybe get a quote on
So I guess
get that and so.
That's what that's what we're now, just
Yeah.
bringing it up.
All right, next is item B, utility stormwater facility maintenance and repair agreement with Forsyth County.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, this is a little different. Normally, these things don't ever come before you. Because this one involves Forsyth County, it essentially amounts to an intergovernmental agreement, which is why Chairman Levent has signed it on behalf of the county. And what we'll be looking for would be for the place for Director Hurd for the Utilities Department to sign the agreement regarding stormwater. There's a special addendum that deals specifically with the fact that it's the county and the city of Cumming contracting that the mayor would sign. This is your standard stormwater maintenance agreement. Because you're dealing with the county, there are a few things that don't apply. Number one, the identification provision doesn't apply. Number two, you can't put a lien on county property, so we took that out. Number three, their building is done. This is for the voter registration building. And everything has already been permitted and approved. And so that part, there's a special notice in here that says that has been taken care of. That's really what this is. I mean, if there are any
Why do
specific
they even
questions
want it?
about this, well, everyone who has a new building and has stormwater retention facilities in Cumming has to have an agreement with us.
Right.
And so they have to have a stormwater agreement with us because that building is located in the city.
Do they have to have one with the county?
This is the county building, the county voter building that's saying they're gonna maintain their stormwater pond.
I'm sorry if I wasn't clear about that. It's the city agreeing with the county on how the county is gonna maintain their stormwater facility
okay.
in our jurisdiction.
Same as we do with the neighborhood's responsible for maintaining it. Any questions or discussion?
Where is their stormwater?
It's a detention
You
pond.
don't need to vote on that.
Yeah, we'll have to vote on it.
I'll
Yeah.
make a motion to approve the agreement.
Second.
Please vote. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Resolve the problem with that flooding into their part?
I don't know. John or Scott, do y'all know?
They were teaching about the voting center, and they resolved the overflow flooding and the damage charge behind it. And
As
then,
far as we know, they have, yes.
a lot of my neighbors were talking about it, I guess,
Yeah.
about a year ago. They were
No more complaints about it.
That's good.
And it was in the construction.
Do it right after construction. So right there on the back side.
Gave it to.
You got guy here.
Yep. So next, we got planning and zoning, appointing the code enforcement officer, Leonard Mancinelli. Scott Wilson was serving as the code enforcement officer. Things kind of transformed into him working part of the time, doing investigations at the police department and doing code enforcement. And then it's kind of worked into, he's pretty much just working at the police department. So we found the need to let him stay there. They needed that help, and he was doing a good job doing that and replacing that position. Lenny, which I never knew him as Leonard, but he's been in law enforcement for how long? 36 years. He was a captain with the Forsyth County Sheriff's Office, captain with Dawson County, and he'd retired previous to all that from an agency in Florida. So he'll be able to do the same thing that Scott did, and then that would also give us a certified peace officer in the building in case something were to happen. We'll hope he's a good shot. I know. They have to qualify every year, so I know he is. So bringing that to the council to approve his position as code enforcement officer.
I'll make a motion, we approve him.
A second.
Second.
That quick?
Quick. Don't need dragging it around.
Please vote. Carries 5-0. And then we'll handle the oath right quick and
He's ready to get on.
get that over with. You ready? I guess we'll go up to the podium.
He's got it.
That last name, he wasn't born in Cumming.
I do solemnly swear that
With
I
it for
will
the
well.
last 80 years.
This is this man's ordination here.
It's them, not me.
I do solemnly swear that I will well and truly perform. You gotta read it after that.
I do solemnly swear that I will well and truly perform
My duties as code enforcement officer
my duties as code enforcement
of the
officer
city of Cumming,
of the city of Cumming,
that I will faithfully enforce the ordinances
that I will faithfully enforce the ordinances
of said city
of said city
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
without fear or failure,
without fear or failure,
and in actions as code enforcement officer,
and in actions as code enforcement officer,
act as I believe for the best interest of the city.
act as I believe for the best interest of the city.
I do further swear that I am not the holder of any unaccounted for public money,
I do further swear that I am not the holder of any unaccounted for public money
due this state or any political subdivision
due this state or any political subdivision
or authority thereof,
or authority thereof,
and that I am not the holder of any office
that I am not the holder of any office
of trust under the government of the United States,
of trust under the government of the United States,
any other state,
any other state
or foreign state which I am,
or foreign state which I am,
by the laws of the state of Georgia, prohibited from holding,
by the laws of the state of Georgia, which I am prohibited from holding,
that I am otherwise qualified to be a code enforcement officer
that I'm otherwise qualified to be a code enforcement officer
according to the Code of Cumming, Georgia,
according to the Code of Cumming, Georgia,
as well as the Constitution and laws of Georgia,
as well as the Constitution and laws of Georgia,
and that I am the recipient of public funds
and that I am the recipient of public funds
for my service.
for my service.
I will support the Constitution of the United States and of this state.
I will support the Constitution of the United States and of this state.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Glad to have you.
I suggest you give him a copy of it where he'll know what he's supposed to do. Troy,
So,
I
yeah,
suggest you give him a copy of it where he'll know what he's supposed to do.
you'll get a thick book. And I'll give this to Scott and let you sign it. That'll work. Next is announcements, upcoming Playhouse shows. Annie is going on through November the 11th at 8 p.m. Thursdays through Saturdays, 3 p.m. on Sundays. Upcoming fairground events, this Friday and Saturday is the Steam, Antique Tractor, and Gas Engine Expo. All the council members are invited to a dinner with them Friday night at 6, if any of you want to attend. Number 2 is annual Buck Jones Toy Run on November the 18th. And the Winter Wonderland in Cumming, which is the ice skating rink, will start November 22nd and go through January the 7th. We do have a need to go into executive session, talk about land acquisition. So to have a motion to go into executive session. Second, please vote. Carries 5-0. Thanks, everybody, for coming.
Second.
Do I have a motion to go back into public meeting?
Second.
Yes.
Please vote. Carries 5-0. I have a motion to close the meeting.
Second.
Second, please vote. Carries 5-0. Thank you.